So on the night of AFLEWO, we were just, you're still sleepy and, you're grabbing your phones. And then my phone goes on and instantly in the morning when we were still just walking home, I received a phone call from the dean and she tells me, hey Desmond, so you're going to graduate, but we have to bond you because you've not paid your fees. And the only way we're going to bond you is that you must work at the university as a graduate assistant or a tutorial fellow. And I said, why not? But they said, no, hold on. You can only do that if you're a master's student. Okay, then I said, okay, I'm out. Then he said, no. So you've got also the Vice Chancellor's scholarship. So I was like, how do I respond to this? I remember one of my friends then, he was like isolated from what was happening. He was like, are you sick or something? Are you tired? You've been the whole night. I couldn't even rejoice for the first time because I asked myself, this is not possible in any given circumstances. And I still couldn't believe it will happen because the statements were so sweeping and so big to be true until the registrar called me and said, you're wasting our time. We need your details, to come in. And that's how I ended up doing my master's within the same year before I graduated. So I had started my master's in 2014 before I'd already graduated. And as people were looking for work, I was already working. And this for me was emotional because having not had the resources and the ability to go through school, and now God was delivering this to me in a way that I'd never seen. After a night of worship and being empty, to me that was the highlight of 2014. And I think it is at that moment that I now told God this interesting part. This is an interesting part again. I said, oh God, now I know that I wanted to go to Yale, but what you have given me up to this moment, I'm grateful. Now, I know you told me just to mention the 2 nights that is eventful. Now, I skip again. This year, earlier this year, AFLEWO was last year in 2019, and I was out of the country. So I came back because with a bunch of friends. I told them, you have to go to this event. And this event, I can't miss it. Whether I'm abroad, I have to. This night is always a special night for me. So I tell my friends, I have to be in this event because it is important for me. And they ask, which kind of event is this? I said, it's a worship night. And they were not worshipers because we met in Cape Town and we were just friends. They asked me, yeah, we know you to be a good man, but this worship thing, I said, you just come along. So 4 of us, they booked their own ticket. I didn't book their ticket. Booked their own ticket. They came to the night. And getting to AFLEWO night, you have to be prepared. You have to ask people, hey, could I get a seat? Because if you don't get the seat, I learned in 2009, if you don't get a seat, you'll be out in the cold. So we came, and I had applied to join Yale University. But I'd forgotten about it because I forgot the prayer that I did in 2014. So after the worship night, I was not in the choir. I was saying, in fact, we were just on the sides. And on the worship night, so I get a message on my phone, but I ignore it because I was with friends. I said, okay, I'll look at it in the morning. So I went and slept. Then I looked at the time. It was just midnight that the message had come. So I opened the email and I saw the word, congratulations. And I looked at the top and then I saw Yale University, like, no. And I said, no, it can't be. Then I looked at the time, then I said, these are scammers. So, we are in the age of scamming. So I'll wait, I'll pause, and just see if this is correct. Then I had to look at the domain.
Yes.
I remember vividly that 2014, even though I'd forgotten about this particular event, God has made it happen. And that's how things roll. And this is where I am, and hoping that again in the next event, that something will happen. And those three events is the culmination of really what AFLEWO is in its most unique sense. And I say this because I have sat back and interrogated. I interrogate the objectives and the missions of every group that I'm in very seriously. But there's something that stands out in AFLEWO that I really resonate with. The humility of the leaders who are extremely professional and will have chosen to do so many other things, but they humble themselves to put together this event and to actually ensure that this kind of group exists in this generation where worship is not in the top priority of the list of most young people. And it is important because I feel that AFLEWO pushes back the chant and dials into the space where we ensure that worship goes back to our top priority. And the way they do it and the way they manage it, you realize that people are not the same. There might be differences. But the unity of purpose when it comes to AFLEWO, when you mention AFLEWO, the bonding, whether it's an alumnus or those who've just joined, the warmth and the objectivity and the oneness of the voice when the music sounds is something that up to date I can't explain how it happens. I don't know, the work that goes into it, because I tried, some leadership roles and I ran away from it because it was too heavy. The people who are actually doing the background work and the leaders and those who are putting this together do extremely good. This is a full-time job. It should be paid like this. This should be remunerated. And yet, you realize that most people are actually just volunteering and giving their all. And for me, that is what has kept me. And if I were to give my own personal testimony, it is only through AFLEWO that I've had the real moment that I've sat back and have been refreshed. When I come to AFLEWO, I don't come with my medals and my feathers and my caps and to say, no, I find myself, it's easier for me to sit back and just to allow God to use me. And that is, I think, the moment that I break. And I think that the moments that I've really broken down and the people that I've met, including the wonderful Reverend Grace Bukachi, she will tell you, because I've run to her as one of the patrons sometimes. And the word, she's not too wordy. She'll give you something to think about. And then they'll give you, some pointers as a worshiper, from a worship stand, to just ponder about. And that becomes your lifeline. And you hold on to that, and it keeps on pushing you to this way. I will tell any young person in this era and age, if they really value worship, and they'll really want to consider being, part of that, especially to minister to the nations, then AFLEWO is really a place to be. Not just for the short term, but for the long term. And that for me is my commitment. Whether I'm out there, the event, the night of worship, if it's possible, I should come from the practice and be part of the group. But if I'm not, the night of worship to me, that is sacred. And with Zoom, I doubt it will be, I'll miss these opportunities.
Allow me to interject and just say, because I have been part of the ministry and watched you all through, that you strike me as one of those people for whom this is your way of ministering or expressing your love for God and His things, and that you strike me as a pillar in that sense, or you give, when I see you, it's the image that comes to mind, or the words that come to mind is consistency, dependability. I always, when I see you, I know. I just, it's amazing. You're very consistent in this. You're very committed, and you're very dependable. And I bless the Lord for you.
Thank you so much, but
That's
also,
amazing.
but also to say that you people, you've kept us on the full. And I remember almost every instance. I think Pastor Kim there was a song that they think that you led. I think this was in 2012. It was, I think it was not the main event night. It was just, the commission. We've been commissioned, or I can't figure it out. And it was such a simple song that I've sung over and over again. And the first note of that song, you can tell the purity and the earnestness of worship in AFLEWO. That is unlike church. I'm not saying the church is not cool and that we don't really do something, but there's an atmosphere that lands in the space of AFLEWO that is just unique. And I remember after that song, we were with one of our choir members. I remember his name is Gabriel, and then he turned around and asked me, "Man, I don't want to leave this place for now. Like this is," and it was commissioned. And I told me, it's a commission, so just wait. After we've been commissioned, please feel free to stay. And I think that impact is what draws us to come to AFLEWO. And I think as a worshiper myself, the rest factor, that you minister to other people throughout the year, then you get this opportunity to be ministered to while you also minister. This is the unique niche of AFLEWO that is unmatched in this era and age of worship. And the geniusness and the and the favor that God has put into both of you as leaders, and because I know very well that from a choir member perspective, I view both of you as those who have really led us into worship and shaped our thought and process when it comes to ministry in AFLEWO. And for that, we are grateful. On behalf of those who have never had an opportunity to say they are grateful, we are grateful.
AFLEWO, like any other human endeavor, is not necessarily perfect. We do what we know best to do and lean into the Spirit and listen to how He is leading and do our best to obey and to follow through. Having said that, it has its challenges. And I think for me, the greatest one that has been a repeated frustration has been, in my understanding, a financial one, where I can't count the times that we come close to wondering, are we going to do this or not? And usually it's not about whether we have the right people, or it's usually we're short on cash, and we just can't seem to be able to join the dots between here and there. And I think that's usually my biggest frustration. My call would be to those for whom this ministry has meant something. There's never too little to give. The too little would be nothing. That's when it's too little. But if it's something, your little and someone else's little and another person's little, all put together adds up to make AFLEWO an event that, from the point of view of a leader trying to deliver, it makes their delivery a lot easier. I can't tell you the number of times we would go fasting, or just the frustrations at some point would almost get us frustrated with each other as a leadership team, when the larger issue isn't us, it's not the other person, it's this huge, humongous lion about to devour us, and it's a financial one. So I think that's been the biggest challenge, that of consistent financial support. So So for me, that's been the biggest area. But I do have to have a rider with it, that there hasn't been a year we have set out to deliver AFLEWO that the Lord has not delivered AFLEWO. There hasn't been, not one. There hasn't been a year we haven't pulled it off. So again, it's not us, it's been the Lord. So while I would be praying and desiring for an easier journey or an easier ride, I must say that still, every time our faith has been tested and the Lord has come through. Our faith has been tested and the Lord has come through. Yeah.
That's interesting. You say that. Let me pick it up from him. So like I said earlier, I've been in the choir, different roles in the choir. I've also been part of the audience. Then there's this one year, I was actually part of the resource mobilization team. It is crazy because you have this huge understanding of what AFLEWO means and you want to communicate that to this person with a bag of money, and you realize your first hurdle is, who is that person? Because we have all these big brands and they have their, whatever they prefer to place their brand on.
Right.
And worship is not exactly the thing they write in their business plans as a way of marketing, their product. And so for that year, I was not very helpful, I will tell you for sure. But I think the following year, not being part of the resource mobilization team, I just thought, but I know someone here. Why don't we just give them a call? And maybe that's what it takes for someone in the choir or at home to just say, I may know someone who can just get us through the door, a foot in, a shoe in. And so even as people are watching this and they're thinking, my first original thought every time I heard about AFLEWO fundraising, I was like, why can't AFLEWO start a business that will give it money to run this thing? Right. Yeah, but that's not what God has called AFLEWO to do. Okay? So, and I had to move from that mentality to think, because I come from a very, a place where I've come to appreciate sustainability. Yeah, and it's the buzzword all over town. And so I started thinking, okay, so what is it that AFLEWO can start to do that will in turn plug in the money? But then I realized there is this thing that this, vision bearer team has been charged with. And God is constantly asking them to trust and obey. It's just so simple. Trust and obey. And, and maybe that same word, to trust and obey, is, something that should resonate with every single person. Whether you're in AFLEWO this year, past years, or you want to be in it in future years, what is God putting in your heart to just do? Maybe you have a bakery and God is speaking to you something about that and how you can help support this. As in, you have to start thinking of yourself as a resource to AFLEWO. So first begins with you giving of yourself, and time is valuable, and you being part of the choir, being part of the leadership team, whatever it is, whatever capacity you have, that's giving. Then now you realize there's a hurdle, a financial hurdle. So then now you come back and ask God, okay, God, how would you like me to support AFLEWO this year? And I kid you not, God will direct you. So because I mean, from that year of resource mobilization where I did not do anything, the next day I asked God, Lakini, what's happening, you guys? As in, tell me what to do. And that's how we ended up getting just a little bit into the pot. But then also thinking about it from a personal level, I started engaging with AFLEWO when I was single and free to mingle. Then I got married. Then I got children. And so the demand on time that AFLEWO does exert on you is real. Like, let no one kid you. It requires devotion. And many times, my friends we've served it, they'll tell you many times, I checked in like 15 minutes late or half an hour late from work, from sorting something on the home front. And that for me was frustrating because this is something you want to give your all to. But then you also realize that you are this multifaceted human being that needs to serve your people at home. You need to serve your company or wherever you are. And guess what? God is asking you to be excellent in all these spaces. And then you get to this one thing and you're shy of that, expectation you've put on yourself. And so you have to settle on, oh, okay, God, at least I am here. I made it, And for me, that was a big frustration. And also just, of course, when you're pregnant, you're like, okay, sawa, nitaonea kwa TV. As in, so that was crazy. But I kid you not, the years you're able to plug in, whether you're going to be in the audience or in the choir, it doesn't matter. As long as you're able to plug in, I think there's something transformational about interacting with the AFLEWO. I'll tell you, one of my highlights for sure has been the people. The people. I mean, not to negate what God is doing, but God has done amazing things with the people. I know my best lady, my what do you call these people who stand behind you as you're getting married? My best mate. I mean, I got my best friend, my closest friend, my best mate from the AFLEWO choir. And you see, sometimes when you're up there leading, you might focus on just getting to know the BGVs and getting to know the people who will actually lead the songs or the chaplaincy or whatever. But for some reason, as in, God just drew my heart to someone in the choir, and we've been close ever since. And it's amazing. So even if you're part of the choir, don't think less of yourself. Like, God can use you to minister to the people who are leading. So for me, I think one of the things that God used that lady to show me was marriage works, number one. And you can actually have fun. And so for me, we click on that level, and I forever get an opportunity to be reminded of these things and to know that people are valuable. It doesn't matter what level they serve at. It doesn't matter who they are. If you just connect from that place that God has allowed you to meet up, that for me is amazing. Of course, as I continue to sing and do ministry, I've had the wonderful opportunity to get support from, some of the people that we've sung with, and they've, BGV'd me on my songs, and that's amazing to just know that people are happy that you are gifted in this way and you have a certain opportunity and they want to plug in and support you. So what I love most about AFLEWO, it's the genuineness of the people and the fact that everyone is genuinely happy for you. Hakuna mtu ukana think, huyu amepewa song a lead, kwa nini yeye amepewa song a lead? Maka kuna mse ufikira hivyo, manze, that's not the right attitude. I think what I've had and what I've seen is people just genuinely respond to you and they love on you from that perspective. Yeah.
You've said something about the time demand, and I've wondered, is it worth it? As in, what would happen if we dumbed it down?
Oh my gosh. The thing is, many of the people who serve the AFLEWO choir are worship leaders in themselves in their churches, okay? So when we meet as a choir, we're meeting on a Sunday afternoon. So Sunday afternoon, I think internationally is just known as family time, right. Okay? So that means you tell your husband and children, mjisot, mimi ni drop in choir practice. And so you watch them go and you're like, here, and you wonder, what, is this worth it? Like what he's asking. And I can tell you for sure it is. There is no way I would have kept coming back if it wasn't worth it. I know the extra time the people don't get to hear about is the people who BGV and the song leaders do twice, have twice the expectation because they meet in the middle of the week. And so the coming off from work or wherever they are engaged in, and they meet in this room to, practice, which means then they must have practiced on their own before they come together. So you're talking about a triple demand on your time as an individual, as the BGV, and as the choir. So he said it, there's something so refreshing about being in this company and being in this, responding to this call, such that on the night of AFLEWO, you get so tired, but you also get so refreshed. It's an irony I cannot explain. You leave that place thinking, I just want to go sleep. Then you get home and you have so much energy to do other things. I can tell you for a fact, Bebe, when every night I've been in AFLEWO, leaving at 6 a.m., of course you actually leave at 7 after saying goodbye to everyone. And I get home and I sleep for only 2 hours. Me, I'm ready to go. Like, let's go. Where are we going? Because you're so refreshed. And so God has a way of, you meet his needs, he's going to pour back into you. And that's what I've experienced. So I do say it is worth it. Yeah.
And I mean, I'll also just echo what Njeri is saying, that it is absolutely worth it. Because I know that many people always ask in the context of ministry, is still God at work? Many people suffer really when in the ministry. And let me speak about myself. I might not know what's happening with other worshipers or other people in the ministry. But AFLEWO for me has been my place of not only rest, but also my place of receiving. And maybe I'm selfish. Let me just now come to think about it. Maybe I'm selfish because sometimes, I somehow know that God will come through because of that faithfulness. The interesting part is that there is no single AFLEWO event that he has not shown up. Like, if people are asking God to show up literally, I am a beneficiary. My friends will tell you, every people that I worked with, including those who might be watching and are from my church, my story is so open. And it's something that is known by my friends. I walked in this city without a single coin. My brother, told me, look, Desmond, I can't really stay with you if you don't have a job in this city.